we go ahead and get started? Those of you who don't know me, I'm Karen Schmeichel. I am one of the TALIII Fellows, and I'm also the Program Director of our Howard Hughes Inclusive Excellence Grant, and we had a workshop last summer at the beginning of May to try and kind of figure out where we needed to go in terms of supporting STEM students and inclusive teaching. And Cecil Rose actually reached out to Dr. Ballenger and connected us, and he came and did a whole morning's workshop at that particular session that really focused us on the importance of engaged and inclusive teaching. And it was so compelling that we thought we would want to bring this forward and share it with even more of the campus. So as you can see from this slide, Dr. Ballenger comes to us from the Atlanta educational community, where right now, I know he spends a lot of time as a deputy director to the Atlanta University Center for Data Science Initiative, which really has great promise to cohere all of us in the Atlanta area around our mission in inclusive pedagogy. So without further ado, he's going to do a better job at telling you what he does and what he thinks about, and hopefully addressing some of the topics that I know many of us are passionate about. So without further ado, Dr. Ballenger.
Thank you so much. Thank you all again for having me back here at Oglethorpe. Had a really nice time with faculty last summer, focusing on some of the goals that you have around inclusive pedagogy, particularly in the STEM area. As Dr. Schmeichel shared, I am currently faculty at Morehouse College, assistant professor of STEM education, going up to tenure next year, so grateful. And I'm deputy director of the Atlanta University Center Data Science Initiative, and we focus on all things data across the Atlanta University Center. So I'm going to jump into a few slides. We do have a more intimate setting, so I think we'll have some time to maybe get into some questions and a little bit of call and response. Maybe we're able to talk about different things that are important to you as a community here at Oglethorpe, which you are doing many exciting things, and especially in some of the work that we're doing, looking at institutions such as yours who are making that transition into being MSIs and dealing with some of those transitions in the student population and making sure that there's a stronger support system for those students, meeting them where they are. Okay, so here we are. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in, just sharing a little bit about myself. Again, Dr. Justin Ballenger, originally from Spartanburg, South Carolina, which isn't too far away from here. Another South Carolinian in the room. Graduate of Clemson University, my undergrad in biological sciences, master's in math and science education, and my PhD in curriculum and instruction for STEM education. A few pictures here, and one of the things that I like to do in the work, particularly as we think about inclusive pedagogy, is ground myself in why and understanding where I come from, where that's leading me, and particularly for individuals and organizations, that becomes a very important piece of the work that we do. Again, graduate of Clemson University, I'm married, 3 children that are 4, 10, and 12. You see a picture of my beautiful wife, Hope, right here, who is from Spartanburg, South Carolina as well. She's a photographer, and we come from a small town, Fairmont, South Carolina, which houses the largest landfill in the state of South Carolina. And that has had a very formative, shaping experience for me, thinking about how I serve others and what that means to the world around us. And just some various images from some of the work that I've done in Africa and in Kenya, working with schools there on ecotourism, also in the Dominican Republic, doing some work around computer science and advanced urban agriculture and STEM outreach. And you'll see a picture right here, and 5 points to anybody who might be able to identify. I'll tell you it's a school. What type of school that is in the background of the picture?
Which picture?
The picture right here that says, "Call me Mister." Where my mouse is. So,
Oh, we can't see it.
can't see it? All right, I'll see if I can point to it. So right here, this picture up.
What's the question? What kind of school is it?
What kind of school is it?
Like a one-room schoolhouse?
One-room schoolhouse, particularly a Rosenwald school, and this is in upstate South Carolina, so Jewish Rosenwald, funded, was a benefactor for many different schools, and I matriculated through my teacher education program, master's program, through the Call Mission program at Clemson University, which is purposed on increasing the number of minority males who go in the middle and elementary school classrooms. And you can't see him very well right here, but the handsome gentleman on the left side right there is a picture of me, and that I worked as a graduate assistant after doing my PhD program for this program, looking at transitions in South Carolina and many southern schools in terms of how we're servicing particularly Black male educators to go into the classroom. But again, these are some images that give formative experiences for myself, and then some different phrases that kind of frame how I step into the space of being an educator and researcher. All right. I'm going to play one promo video. This is from the Morehouse Center for Excellence in Education, our teacher education program, where I'm currently. We may have to come back to it if the internet doesn't agree with me today.
Is it a Wi-Fi thing?
Yeah, it's something with connections. But I think we may have it fixed here. Okay, so it says we're on the net, so let's see if we can see if this works. All right, so we'll go Sam's video.
Sorry.
No problem. All right, so also I work with the AUC Data Science Initiative, and as I talk about reasons for why and purpose, this was the Atlanta University Center is a collaboration among 4 historically Black colleges in Atlanta, those being Clark Atlanta University, Morehouse College, Morehouse School of Medicine, and Spelman College. And the Atlanta University Center serves at the pleasure of the 4 presidents of the Atlanta University Center, so they are the executive council for the Atlanta University Center. And what that consortium does is allow the institutions to collaborate on different initiatives, whether those be student-facing, faculty-facing, or research. And one of the areas where they saw an extreme need, particularly for historically Black colleges and minority-serving institutions, was data science. And so, at the behest of the 4 presidents of the institutions, the Atlanta University Center's Data Science Initiative was created, and the initial mission of the Atlanta University Data Science Initiative was to actually set up a collaborative framework for creating academic programs in data science, those being minors, majors, and concentrations. I don't know who's had the pleasure of being on a curriculum committee before. I've done it at 2 different institutions, and getting things through a curriculum committee at one institution, if you've ever served on it, and had that experience, you know what that's like. So imagine that work across 4 separate institutions, 2 of those being liberal arts colleges, one a comprehensive university, and the other a graduate serving medical institution. So, you know, needless to say, that's been quite a bit of work, but quite a bit of learning has taken place about the needs of faculty, the needs of students across different domains, and how we come together to create collaborative networks to accomplish a goal. Atlanta University Center Data Science Initiative, our purpose again is collaborating across all things data, so we coordinate on academic programs, on research, industry engagement, and partnership with other institutions. And we're going to share some of the research that we're currently engaged in at the Atlanta University Center Data Science Initiative, as well as work that I'm doing at Morehouse. And with your designation as a minority serving institution and some of the work that I found out about last time I was here, I would love to create an open invitation for collaborative opportunities moving forward. But here's some statistics on the development of the Data Science Initiative. We work with over 500 AU Center students. If we look at the population of the Atlanta University Center, that's about 12,000 students across all 4 institutions. So that's a pretty good sized chunk for data science, and 500 students, particularly starting out. 85 students in our data science club, which is both undergraduate and graduate. 200, and I think these numbers are a little low because we haven't got the latest class. We're a little bit closer to 260 faculty and staff who are affiliated with the program. And we've awarded now over 65 research and curriculum meeting grants. And we put on a number of different events during the course of the year. So like I'll share with you, our next large event is going to be the WED Voice Data Science Symposium, which will happen in February. But we also host a monthly Director's Lunch and Learn, and we cover different topics that deal with data science across various domains. So our last Director's Lunch and Learn was on environmental science. The one before that, which I hosted, was actually looking at healthcare data in space. So we actually had an astronaut at the Ballenger Medical Hub that visited us, and we are working to create a collaborative agreement where we're going to be looking at the use of physical therapy for those for astronauts in long duration space flight, and also looking at health equity for the space program. So if any of you are familiar with the space program, we're about 9 years away from the development and launch of a moon colony. We're currently in the middle of the Artemis program, where we're sending astronauts to look for water, and hopefully if they find the right space, which we think we've done it with satellites, but they need to go put boots on the ground, that 9 years from now we'll have a moon colony. 10 years after that, the idea is to have a Mars colony. And what we know right now is we have about 11 data points for African Americans that have been to space right now. And I think it's about 8 for Hispanics that have been to space from the United States. And so we don't have that many data points for how different individuals from different backgrounds are going to react to long duration space flight. And what we know about the next generation of space flight is that the first time we sent astronauts, we sent engineers. This time we're sending people who can actually do things. So people who are going to be technicians, people who are running government, business organizations. And so those are going to be from across a very wide range of people. And what we need to know in terms of supporting those people is very important for us to have, to train different sets of data that give us more information about what's happening. All right, so some of my current research, and I'm going to preview these and then we'll circle back to them later. So I'm on a working group with the AUC Data Science for K-12, where we're looking at the integration of data science in the K-12 domain. And that group includes both teacher educators and those who are discipline specific. So there are 2 bills that are currently happening in our state and nationally. So we have the Digital Literacy Act, which is a Senate bill right now in the U.S. Senate, which is going to be passed to support data science and digital literacy at the K-12 level. And then we have a Georgia House bill, which is typically is about mirroring that at the state level. And teachers have been purposed with teaching data science that's been introduced this year, and they'll be assessed on implementing that next year. And if you were to ask the average K-12 teacher what is data science, they tell you I don't know. And so part of the work that we're doing now is to work on professional development for teachers at the K-12 level and support them. Also co-principal investigator for the Institute for African Americans in Computing Sciences, or IAMCS, and I'll share more information about that and encourage you. It's not only for African American students, we're recruiting mentors as well, so any of you who are in the computing sciences would love to have you join us as a mentor any of your students who are interested in pursuing careers in computing, would love to have them join us as well. I serve as the research director for the Morehouse Center for Excellence in Education, research lead for the National Data Science Alliance, which is an NSF-funded grant, which is working across all HBCUs for right now, but the eventual framework will move us to working with predominantly Black institutions and MSIs to support the development of data science academic and research programs. Served as the principal investigator for a NASA grant, MLBox, which is teaching AI and machine learning to teachers at the K-12 level along with their students, and principal investigator for the Atlanta University, for the ACRB, which is the Atlanta Citizens Review Board, in reviewing police complaint incidents around some particular neighborhoods in Atlanta. So what we're doing is using the GIS system and tying in narratives from individuals that live in those communities, because right now with policing, much of the policy around policing practices and what happens does not involve the voice of the communities that are being policed. So we have quote unquote experts who are making policy decisions for the individuals that live in neighborhoods, and there's very little information known about the experiences of those individuals. So this work is capturing the experiences of those individuals and then codifying in a way that that data can be used to help inform policy decisions on policing in Atlanta. And then lastly, working with the AgSTEM project, which is funded by NRCS and the Time to Give Foundation, and hopefully NASA, if a few things go right in the next few months, where we're looking at the use of computer science and urban agriculture together. So most of computing science for K-12 typically revolves around robotics and either direct code on the computer just to learn the coding language. And what we're attempting to do, and some of the work that we're creating now, is to create different domains for the use of computing science, because it's applied, data science and computing sciences, because it's applied across so many different fields. And agriculture is one of those areas that we're currently seeing. We don't have internet, so I won't be able to share this video, but you will have my presentation. I'll share this with you. And this is another starting point. The Human Animal is a video that focuses on how humans perceive the world around us. And so by training, I'm a biologist. So part of the way that I approach research, organization, team building is thinking about the way that humans think. And so what this video principally talks about are chemical control mechanisms for why humans respond the way that we respond. So I highly encourage you to take a look at the video if you have an opportunity to do so. But since we don't have internet, I'm going to have to skip it today. All right, so a bit of an anatomy lesson. For those of you who are biologists, please humor me. For others, this might be useful information for you. So if you think about the brain, there are three primary regions of the brain. We have our neocortexes, which we think about our seat for reason, and it's the main body of the brain, gray matter. That we think about our limbic system, where most of our emotions are housed, and so this is where we take in inputs and we have emotional reactions, and a lot of that is chemically controlled. And then lastly, our reptilian complex, which is the most primitive part of our brain, which actually, if we think about what it does, it actually centers most of our decision making. So although we like to think of ourselves as reasoning and making our decisions based off of reason and information, if we look at data about how our human brains operate, that's actually not true. That if we took the time to take in all the data, think about it, make decisions, we'd be paralyzed for most of our lives. So we actually make most of our decisions very quickly, and it happens in our reptilian complex. And so all of us can relate to, I don't know, just by show of hands, how many people have shopped for a used car before? So this space, most of us have. So, and you've dealt with a used car salesman. So reason might say, when you deal with a used car salesman, if they're giving you good information and telling you numbers, that this might be a good decision for you to make. But for most of us, there's probably something in the back of your mind that's saying this person does not have my best interest at heart when you have an interaction with a used car salesman or somebody that's of that ilk when you're dealing with them. And that's something that we need to think about as educators and scholars when we engage with community, when we engage with students. A lot of times we approach them like used car salesmen. We are looking to get something. We want your data. We want your information. We're trying to accomplish a task, and we need you to do that. And we're not really concerned about you. We need your information. And currently in our society, there is an anti-intellectualism that's going on, like a fight against the use of data and those who are the arbiters of scientific thought, that there's an anti-rationalism. People don't trust science. They don't trust the experts to come up with solutions that are meaningful for society. And part of that reasoning is because science has so divorced itself from how we interact with the world as humans. So like we say that there's objective information, objective facts, objective data, and this is what we should use to make decisions. Any of you who've ever run a research project know that that is untrue. If you've submitted research papers or external funding opportunities and grants, you know that's not true. That you don't submit information, there's this objective group that looks at it, and then at the end of it, whoever had the best proposal or the best information wins all the time. That there's a human element that's part of that whole decision-making process. And even if we look at data sets, those who train the data sets, that our humanness is embedded in the data that we use to make decisions. And so understanding that and how we operate as humans, there is an obligation on the part of us as academics to filter that into the way that we engage with students and the way that we engage with communities. Not just what does the data say, what are the data implying, but what does this mean and what are the implications for how humans might respond to this, or how humans might engage in space. And as we think about pedagogies that are going to connect with students from different communities, that becomes a very, very important part of the work that we do, that we're able to understand the audience that we're engaging with and not simply value the information that we receive or that we pay. All right, this gets us to a driving question for all of the work that we do. Any of you who've been blessed to have small children like I have, if you talk to a 2 or 3 year old for long enough, you'll get into a cycle of them asking you the question, why? And they'll continue to ask you why. And there's a reason for that. It's because our human brains are hardwired with this question. We want to know why things matter. It's like, if you're ever asked to do anything at work, if that why doesn't make sense, then that's a lot of times why faculty won't engage in a certain space, or they resist engaging in a certain space. And the same thing for students. If we don't have a clear why, a reason for the engagement that we have, then we get a resistance to engaging in the space, or either we're wandering in the space and not really knowing why we're there, and that can cause frustration, and it can also cause us to go in disparate directions, so we're not able to align in order to push a goal forward. And from what I understand about what's happening here at Oglethorpe, there are particular objectives and goals that you all have for supporting your students and providing deeper learning experiences to meet them for where they are. And this is a question that certainly needs to be explored among the faculty. Why are we engaged in the space? And why are we engaging in the space in the ways that we are? All right, so talking about this, why is a fundamental need, and as we think about it, even as we answer that question of why, some of our most deeply held convictions and beliefs that we have, we struggle to put language to. So if I were to ask you, if you think about the person that loves you some of you it may be, mother, children, significant other, whomever. You know without a shadow of a doubt that person loves you. But if I were to ask you why, and continue to ask you why, so like somebody might say they give me gifts. So does that mean if someone doesn't know gave you a gift, that they love you as well? Or they say, they reassure me when things are going wrong. If someone you don't know does the same thing, does that mean that they love you? And most everybody would say no. But you know with deep conviction that those things are true. And we struggle for language to help us understand it. But what we do know is that we can take data to understand why people might respond in certain ways. And I think that's part of the work that you all are engaged in, is to understand why your students might respond in particular ways, even when they struggle with the language, to let you know exactly why. So like, we ask students about what can we do to serve you better as an institution? What things do you need? And students may be able to tell you certain things in terms of things that haven't served them or ways that they felt. And in many of our campus climate surveys, we don't key into that piece of data. How do you feel in your classrooms? What is the climate? We ask questions about, are you satisfied with the material that's taught? Maybe have people been, not been rude to you? But we don't key into true sentiment data about how students are feeling in the environment. We know about humans, whether it's physical or intellectual danger, that changes the way that our brains operate. So if I'm in a space where I feel that I'm in intellectual danger, that automatically shuts down my neocortex, and that means that higher functions such as calculating a math problem or giving a deep response to a question. Without training, most people are not able to, and even with training, most people are not able to engage in that space in the same way that you would if you are relaxed, comfortable, and you feel that you are not othered in that space, you're not in danger. And so as you think about the environments that you create in your space for engaging with students, how is that factored in? How students actually feel or respond in your class? Is that something that you actually take mental notes or data about when you're in your class, like actual responses that you're getting from students? Are students on their cell phones most of the time when they're in your class? Are you getting, certain looks for certain information that's shared in class? Or that you can, are you noticing that students might be uncomfortable about certain topics that are approached in class? Those are all data points that matter very much for creating classroom spaces and environments that welcome students in and allow them to function at their highest level. And for many students, even coming into a university space because it's foreign, maybe you're a first-time college student and there's little to no understanding about what college culture is or what's expected in the space, the students automatically feel uncomfortable. And it may be an assumption from faculty that you're here, I'm a friendly person, this is a college environment, you're free from your parents for the first time, you should be comfortable here. And what we know when we poll many students who are coming from underserved communities is that they're not. And that they struggle with finding community to allow them to feel that they belong in that space, so they're able to actually operate at a level that allows them to excel in their college career. Then when you couple that with the fact that many of our first-time college students and underrepresented minorities may come from post-secondary situations that may not have exposed them to certain areas of the curriculum, there are many factors that can impede success. But what we do know is that from research that we've done across the Atlanta University Center, because that's been our target demographic since our inception, is that there are various things that faculty and institutions can do to create that level of comfort for students and that sense of well-being that allows students to overcome even challenges in curriculum that may have been exposed to, and to feel confident in that space in order to be able to move forward.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So as your center is kind of doing these studies or bringing these data, from this group, I mean, it's a very powerful population to get information from that could be actionable. Like this, and obviously you're going to publish in the peer-reviewed literature, but is there a pipeline to bring those early findings back to the faculty at the 4 universities that are like the pillars? Like, what does that look like from the side?
Yes, and I'm glad you asked. So this will be something that I'll share a little bit later, but for the National Data Science Alliance that I am serving as the research director for, one of the things that we're doing right now, because we know that particularly for faculty at institutions such as yours, like you're probably teaching 3 or 4 courses a semester. If you're in the research that you're engaged in, a lot of times it may be a longer turnover to getting to a peer-reviewed journal article, and some difference in being able to create those research partnerships to actually propel those things forward. So we'll be hosting research affinity cohorts that will meet during the course of the summer, starting this summer 2024. Again, that's going to start with HBCUs, historically black colleges this summer, but the idea is for that to scale up as we move forward. And basically what that is doing is creating a platform for faculty at these various institutions who are doing some of the work. And what we know really is that much of the work around pedagogy and sense of space and place is actually happening at MSIs and HBCUs in these smaller institutions where faculty are actually more engaged in teaching, because those are just questions that for faculty who may only teach one course, and I'm one of those right now, but I come from a space where my first faculty appointment at Mercer University was very similar to what you have here at Oglethorpe, where those are just questions that may not occur to them because they're not in that teaching space, and they may be, have their eyes on certain funded proposals because of a dollar sign and not because of a purpose. And what I've gleaned from what's happening here at Oglethorpe is that teaching and research are intimately tied to one another because of the workload of faculty and other factors that happen. And so what those research affinity cohorts will allow faculty to do is to share their research in forums outside of the traditional journal articles, and we're actually thinking through some other spaces for what those need to look like. So those can be face-to-face meetings. So we host a number of different listening sessions on topics that bring in faculty from institutions that are not typically listed, so they're in some of your large national meetings to understand what's happening with those particular institutions, and to also encourage them to collaborate on the development of peer-reviewed publications. But we know even today that a lot of what's happening in academia isn't centered on peer-reviewed publications as much as it was. So some of your other platforms such as GitHub or even on YouTube with some of the videos on research and so forth, these are other ways of disseminating information, particularly in data science. One of the issues that has been a real problem with journal publications is that we're not able to interrogate the background data for certain studies. And so with the use of GitHub and other platforms, we're actually able to see what the background data, algorithms, code that got to that point in research were, so that we're able to validate it. And that we've seen a number of different cases where research comes out, individuals, after going back and looking at that research, the data that trained that research, or even the algorithms that were used to come to those conclusions were flawed. And with some of these other ways of sharing data information, I know that there's an evolution that's going to happen in how scholars engage with each other. All right, so we can think about ways that learning happens. So traditionally, one-way transfer of knowledge, you open up your head, I tell you stuff, it goes in, and you're supposed to remember it and be an expert just like I am. The other way, which I think is the evolution of where we are, in education is thinking through the social construction of knowledge, which we thought about in the classroom context mainly, but again, part of the research that we're doing now is around how does that social construction of knowledge happen amongst organizations. That we know that no organization in and of itself, with the way that the industry evolves, the way that knowledge is evolving, is going to be able to keep up by itself. So we need to be part of these interconnected networks that construct knowledge socially and give us access to tools and resources that we might not have if we were to stay in our own circle and just pull the knowledge that we're able to pull as individuals or as individual organizations. I include this model, Sinek's Golden Circle. So Simon Sinek, I don't know if anyone's read his book, Start With Why. It's a really wonderful explanation of how organizations can navigate moving from being immobilized by data gluts or indecision on important matters to organizing in a fashion that's going to allow them to actually accomplish objectives and be able to move together. So Sinek's model for the Golden Circle, we look at why is the purpose, motivation for what we believe and why we're headed in that direction. And that's a starting point for organizations to really dig into that question of why we're in this space and why this is important to us as an organization. The process, what specific actions can we take to address that why? So what is the process like? We started interrogating our why. So for this group, what is a major objective for this group coming together as faculty? Like we're together at 12 o'clock on a Tuesday, which you could be using for planning. I know exams are coming up, so there has to be a why for why we still have faculty that's here on today. So what's one of the major objectives that we have?
Improve our teaching.
Improve our teaching. And you know what I'm going to ask you. Why?
Because student success guides our mission.
Why?
Improve.
You said student success guides our mission. Why?
Because we want to make a difference. We want to make a difference in their future.
We want to make a difference in their future. Well, we can continue down this road of why, but if that was an agreement that we're basically looking at student outcomes as the reason for why we want to improve our teaching. So like, we're moving to this metric of student outcomes. Now looking at the population of students that you serve, the resources that are available on your campus amongst faculty in terms of human resources, material resources, and partnerships, how can we accomplish that task? We don't have to answer that right now. But these are things that we start thinking about organizationally, is like, what are the specific actions if we're moving towards this metric of student outcomes being enhanced? And from some of the data that I've read at Oglethorpe, there are some pretty amazing student outcomes that are happening here, and we might interrogate how and why those outcomes are happening. How might we replicate those or enhance those within our departments? And then from how, thinking about the process is what. So what's the proof of, like, once we've established these procedures, what will be the proof that this is working? And what metrics are we actually looking at? What data points can we pull from student outcomes, student measures of success that would tell us that this is working or this isn't working? And so, like, as a simple model for thinking about how we engage in planning for our organization and for meeting a collective goal, this is a simple model but a very powerful one that, particularly even as some of the work that I do in data, it aligns the work that I do, because what happens is that you can, as data scientists, we say all data is good data, but all data won't turn your algorithm to work effectively. So like if we're thinking about what our purpose is from the start, we're able to align where we're spending our time and what we're engaged in.
So it occurs to me as you kind of put this out there that the data, in terms of the how and the what, is really, really helpful with those. Because I think we all can agree on a common why, but it's when we all say how. And especially when we're looking across a campus, like we can all throw stuff against our own classroom walls and see if it fits, but we know eventually each of us working alone is not necessarily taking us in a direction. So I think personally for me, not being in a place where we look at local data or look at data across a cohort, like we're missing an opportunity to not only kind of measure the what, but also to direct our how.
Certainly, and really having that collective understanding of what's happening in the data at an institution such as yours, because some particular trends that we typically see in smaller liberal arts colleges is that those that are doing research in some of these areas, or even those that are bringing in funding for programs, they're kind of set apart from the rest of the faculty in certain ways. So like they find a unique algorithm that allows them to operate within the system that they're in, because it doesn't mirror what happens at a Research One institution or other institutions that are built for research. So they found those personal relationships and that particular niche that allows them to navigate conducting research or building a program at a smaller institution, and they're just seen as an anomaly for the rest of the faculty, and they run their program maybe for however many years, or they bring in dollars and people just say, that's what Professor Schmeichel or Dr. Schmeichel does. She's just an anomaly. But what we know is that if we share those processes and we're able to create collaborations within institutions and across institutions with similar profiles, that we can actually magnify the work that's being done for those individuals, and that we save a lot of time and frustration, particularly for new faculty that are coming in. That some of these areas, like when we think about the how, and you'll forgive me, I'm from South Carolina, son of a Baptist minister. Faculty that made that happen, they might say, I came up on the rough side of the mountain trying to figure all of these things out, and there's not really a process. But when we think about it, we created a process, and if we're able to share that how and refine it, then we can enhance the quality of research and products that are coming out of those institutions. So at Morehouse, we're not a Research One institution. We're actually a predominantly undergraduate serving institution. But what has happened uniquely at our institution in Spelman is that there's been sharing across faculty, so that actually there are Research Level 1 grants that come to our institution because of that sharing and collaboration among faculty. And a lot of that is happening with large Research One institutions for faculty, but much of the work that we're engaged in, even in our conversations with the National Science Foundation and with other grant-making organizations, is how do we replicate that for smaller institutions that are actually on the ground doing the work in communities? Because a lot of what's happening now with larger institutions is that, and this may be something that you've seen as well. They create a collaboration of smaller institutions to actually do the groundwork, and the indirect costs and funding are funneled through the larger institution, so they create the economic benefit and the returning residuals from building their infrastructure. And the smaller institutions, their faculty get a stipend, they recruit students from the smaller institution to come there, but once the grant-funded project is over, what infrastructure is left at the smaller institution? Basically none. They basically contracted labor from the smaller institution to do work for the larger institution, further perpetuating the cycle of we know that there are approximately 25 institutions that get about 80% of federal funding from NSF. And so, part of this outreach and work is to begin thinking through ways that even our smaller minority serving institutions are able to get into some of these spaces in terms of research and enhancing pedagogy to actually build infrastructure that's going to better support the students who are our primary demographic being served here. How am I doing on time? 5 minutes, okay. So I'm going to do a little bit of jumping because we're about 5 minutes left. So I want to make sure that I get to this point, and I'll share slides with you. So importance of why. If we're thinking about this individually organization, as I talk about, it's going to put us on a purpose-driven path as an organization. So like when we really interrogate that question, again, a lot of what happens with the plans for an institution is that it's top down, it's handed to faculty, and most these institutions are set up with faculty governance, and so like when strategic planning happens, a lot of times faculty bow out of that strategic planning and don't engage in it. What happens is that there are a few administrators and the staff that support them that take anecdotes that they've heard from faculty or different things that they think may be important in terms of increasing the bottom line of the institution. They come up with a strategic plan, give you a 200-page document at one faculty meeting and tell you you think it's good for your institution. Most people are, and a lot of times it'll happen at the beginning of the semester or, right when you're giving exams. So most faculty are going to say, yeah, this looks good, it looks good, and send it back. And now you have a strategic plan that's guiding the next 5 to 10 years of what's happening at your institution. And what I would encourage you is as your institution, your departments, colleges are engaged in strategic planning to really look carefully at what's happening with that strategic planning, because for all intents and purposes, that's going to be your why as a faculty member at your institution. Strategic alignment, so we look at our departments, what the expertise of faculty are, what the needs of students are those things aligned with each other, and how do we as faculty, if they're not, create processes for ensuring that happens. Employee engagement, what things are going to speak to faculty, how do we communicate to them so that they understand what the why is and that their work connects so they're able to serve your stakeholder vis-a-vis your students in the community that the research communities that you're a part of in better ways. Customer appeal. If you're an organization, you're a business, you have a bottom line, you're a private institution like we are, so you're mainly dependent on research, not research dollars, but tuition dollars at this point. And what we know, looking 15 to 20 years in the future, tuition dollars are not going to be sufficient for most institutions to stay independent institutions and keep working. So there have to be other revenue streams, whether that's research or funded programs such as professional development certificates and so forth. So how do we create that appeal so that we're able to meet the needs of the institution to keep it running? And then innovation as a catalyst. So as we think about being aligned, we're in that space where we feel safe, we're wanted, we're able to collaborate with one another, then that's where innovation is spurred. That's the golden space for innovation is where individuals feel safe in their organization, they have a sense of purpose, and they have spaces for collaborating in safe environments. All right, I'm sharing my slides. There are different programs that I'm involved in that I'm inviting you all to connect with. The first is the Institute for African American Mentoring in Computing Sciences, or IMCS, an NSF-funded program for increasing the number of African Americans who are pursuing computing careers and advanced degrees in computing. The website is here, and we actually shorten it. It actually is imcs.org. So if you go to imcs.org, we welcome you to join the community. You can also look us up on LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn community, and as we intimated earlier, we're sharing our scholarship in different ways than just journal articles. So you'll see when you go on the website, there are probably 110-ish journal articles that have been produced by the different researchers that are part of that group, but we also have YouTube videos and LinkedIn posts and short templates and videos for enhancing the number of students that are engaged in computing sciences that you can take a look at. The pre-freshman experience is a freshman experience that's a week-long that happens at the Atlanta University Center, where students are introduced to data science as a career path. They have the opportunity to engage with faculty, other students that are in the space, and it's not intended to substantially increase their expertise, but what we have seen is that early introduction before students come into college has dramatically increased the number of students who either minor or are interested in the major for data science because we created a community there. And we recently received a $6.5 million grant from MasterCard to bring this to scale nationally. So this started at the Atlanta University Center, and this summer we're going to run our first national cohort among HBCUs, and we're looking for another donor to expand that to MSIs and further bring that to scale. National Data Science Alliance, is clustered in the Southeast where HBCUs are, so we have 3 hubs that are part of that, where we're supporting academic and research programs in data science. And lastly, I'm including an image from one of the outreach projects that I work with. So we talk about creating spaces for connecting with individuals. This picture was taken aboard one of the UNOLS vessels, which is the United States Naval Observatory Lab. And this is a mix of K-12 teachers and UNOLS scientists and professors from different institutions. I think we have Morehouse College, Atlanta, Spelman, Savannah State, Columbia University, Texas A&M, that we spent 9 days aboard a vessel in the North Atlantic, sharing our research and outreach ideas, actually having time to talk with teachers about the integration of data science and geosciences and how to share those with teachers. And this is a catalyst for developing programs. We actually had 2 district coordinators as well. So we use this as a catalyst for understanding the needs and the why for school districts, how those align with what's happening with universities and what's happening in the science community to create alignments in academics and also with future workforce development. All right, I'm going to skip that and skip that. You can look at National Data Science Alliance. These are the projects I've named. And I'll stop here for questions. I know we're out of time.
Thank you so much.
An hour is so short.
Yeah.
All right, well, again, thank you for spending this hour with me during your lunchtime. I know that you all are busy because exams are coming up. I have exams the first week in December as well, so thank you for taking this time during this very, very busy time of the semester. And I would highly encourage you to reach out and connect. QR code is for the Data Science Initiative. We sponsor at least 3 events monthly through the Data Science Initiative. My personal website that will have my contact information and bio on it. So again, I would highly encourage you to engage and participate in the space because you're doing so many things in the space of serving students at MSIs, and we are working to grow this community and connect with those who are in a similar space. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.